Where do cattle watch TV? Where do cattle watch TV? Hello and welcome to the Patrick Chapman Show. I'm Patrick Chapman and here we go. So we start today with a joke, and the joke goes like this. Where do cattle watch TV? And the answer is on the couch. On the couch. And that is so funny, right? So funny. So funny. You see what I did there? All right. All joking aside, though, let's get down to the serious business. And the first thing I want to show you today are these relics that I have from the kitchen. These are real relics going back to the early 1980s, or maybe even 1970s, late 70s. I think probably early 80s, when my mom bought these at Winn-Dixie in New Orleans. She used to go shopping every Saturday at the Winn-Dixie up on Carrollton, near the bend, the river bend, where it turns into St. Charles. And so, in 1990 is when I moved out of the house finally and moved to California. So I took one set, one knife, one fork, and one spoon. And you can see they have the blue handle. And they're cheap, And the spoon has long since run away with a dish, I think. So I don't have a spoon anymore. I don't know what happened to it. I guess it ran away with the dish. And now I got the fork and the knife still. So these go back a long ways. And my daughter likes them. So she likes to, because they're blue, the blue plastic. They're very cheap. They're so cheap you can make them bend by looking at them. Like bend. Almost. They got that cheap metal. You got to be careful with those. But I still got them, that's a lot of years. And I just thought that was cool, I like old stuff, just old stuff, and you can still use it, and and it's nothing special, there's nothing special, except that it's old, going back a long ways and reminding me of old days. And speaking of old days, we're going to get down to the business here of the program, which is Dobiegniew. And so the first thing is to shout out to the people from Dobiegniew who might be listening. I think there are some of them, and a lot of great people there. I lived there for 3 years. Let me explain where it is. So Dobiegniew is a very small town. When I was in the Peace Corps, that was my site. That's where I served, in the Peace Corps. And I was of my whole group, which was more or less 60 people, I think. I think we came with 70 about, and then right away, 10 of them dropped out, and then eventually more and more dropped out. But so 60 or so people in the group, and I had the smallest site. No, I take that back, second smallest. There was one site that was smaller than mine. I don't remember how many people live in Dobiegniew. Is it 4,000 or something, or even less, or fewer? I don't remember, but it's a small town, and I really liked it. I just love that place. The people who live there don't necessarily love it, because when you're in a small town, you think, there's nothing to do. And what I find is that when you're in a place like that, where there seems to be nothing to do, just do everything there is to do, and you'll find yourself pretty well occupied. There are these common misconceptions in life, and one of them is when I talk to young people and I ask them what they think of their town, whatever town they live in, whatever it is, they don't like it because it's boring. And we always say the bored are boring. But they always say, first thing they'll say is, there's no theater. And I've lived in towns with theaters, and people don't go to the theaters. If there was a theater, somehow that's the first thing they think of is theater. And nobody goes to the theater. I live here in Legnica, and we've got a great theater, and I've only been to it 3 times in 25 years. So, theater is theater, but you can do a lot of other things in your town. So, I love Dobiegniew. It's located in the northwest quadrant of Poland, exactly halfway between Poznan and Szczecin, which are 2 bigger cities. And for some reason, we always went to Poznan. I spent a lot of time in Poznan. Very seldom did I go the opposite direction on the train, because it's on the train line. So I could have just as easily gone up to Szczecin, but I almost never did. Somehow Poznan was more central, and I just always went there. And on the left side, to the west, is Gorzów Wielkopolski, where I spent a lot of time with some other Americans who were living there at the time. And then to the east would be Piła and Wałcz, going that way. So beautiful, beautiful part of the country with a lot of forests and lakes with clean water, and plenty to do. And just great, but the people were great, and that means, and I don't want to start naming people because I'll forget somebody, and it's just the way it is. But let me just shout out some families here. There were the Arkushinskis and the Wieczors and the Bednarchuks, of course. Who else? There was Beata at the Karczma, and there was Tomek and Kamil and Bartek and the Mondries. And I know I'm forgetting somebody. Anyway, great people, great time. All right. So let me just go through this list here that I got. Teresa was my counterpart. Every Peace Corps volunteer had a counterpart, which meant another English teacher from there, like a local person who could speak English and help out with technical things like what textbooks you use and where you go, where the toilet is, everything, all the little details. If you got to fill out forms and you need help doing that. So Teresa was my counterpart, and she was just wonderful. And her husband Andrzej and their two kids, two daughters, really, we spent every Sunday together. They invited me over for obiad every Sunday, and it was great. They lived out in the forest, in the middle of the forest, just outside of Dobiegniew. Sometimes I would ride my bike there. They lent me a bicycle at the beginning. One of those crappy little bikes that you can fold in half, actually. But I used it. I used it until I bought my own bicycle after 1 year. And then I would ride that. So we would spend a lot of time in the forest and go picking blueberries or hunting for mushrooms. And speaking of hunting, Andrzej was a hunter, and he would take me hunting with him sometimes. And that was quite an adventure. And fishing. Once we went fishing, and less said the better there, I think, because I lost 2 of his lures in the rocks. Or at least the hooks. I don't know if we were using lures or hooks with the worms or something. But he caught a trout, or maybe 2, I don't remember. He was one of those guys who knew how to do things like that, and I was like a duffer, let's say. But they had a cow, and they had the horses, and like with the cow, like one day she brought me fresh butter. Like she had just Teresa brought me a slab of butter, homemade butter. That is just so cool. You don't get that in America. I don't know anybody who knows anybody who makes butter at home. It's just such a great thing. And that's the way it used to be. I used to be able to ask my students, especially if they said, like, where do you live? And if they didn't live in Dobiegniew, if they lived outside, that means they lived probably on a farm, and a lot of them did. And I would say, well, do you have a cow? And a lot of them would say, yeah, we have a cow, or maybe no, but my grandmother has a cow. A lot of the grandmothers had 1 cow, or maybe 2 or 3, usually just the one. And this was very common. But then everything changed when Poland joined the European Union, and it's kind of like in America now, you can't just own a cow. Like, any of my American friends, go try to buy a cow and see what happens. Maybe some of them. Some people living out in the countryside, but we're getting so removed from that lifestyle, and I don't know if it's a good thing. But anyway, Teresa, great counterpart, great friend. She ended up. She was teaching biology. She was actually a biology teacher, and happened to start teaching English. I think it was kind of her hobby to learn English, but they just, it's like, when there's a fire, everybody's a fireman. I'm not going to put out the fire. I'm not a fireman. No, you put out the fire, and that's kind of how it was. They needed English teachers, so the director threw the principal threw Teresa into the breach, and she did a good job teaching English, whatever her qualifications were. And then I came in, and we did a good job. I think she was great. So, and then there was Leszek. Leszek and I became great friends. He was the PE teacher, and I see these people when I go back there, but I haven't been back in years. So I'm just saying hi to them from a distance. Leszek Wieczór was a wonderful PE teacher and a great friend. He took me out all the time. We played sports together, basketball and volleyball, and we had some wonderful times. And so I still like to see him when I go back there. We used to play basketball on Friday nights. They had this thing called SKS. I don't know what that stands for even, but it's like sports for after school. Kind of like, just if you want to play sports, you did, and we played a lot of basketball. And the gym was it wasn't even a gym originally. It was converted into a gym, I think, at the primary school. And it had loose boards. You know, it was a wooden floor with some of the board. You got to be careful where you bounce the ball. The brick walls were right on the outline. You know, you couldn't go out, actually. You just touch the wall and you're out, or if the ball touches the wall. So you got to be careful not to run into the bricks. And there's no place on the sideline. There was no sideline. It was just the line in the wall. And the baskets were probably a little too low, maybe bent. I don't remember. But we had so much fun playing. And those were some of the highlights of the time. We were playing those basketball games. Sometimes they would play volleyball, and I didn't really love volleyball. I just wasn't as good as some of them. They were. Some of them were really top-notch players. And I gotta say, I don't know if it's the professional leagues or what league it is, but the Polish team has like the best team in the world. And the men's and the women's. The women's are very good, and the men's have been good for years. So they're doing real well. They're talking about the Polish national team. So volleyball's a pretty strong sport here in Poland, but I'm not a volleyball player. I used to like it, and now I don't really like it. Leszek and I went horseback riding one day on I think a Saturday. His friend had 2 horses, so Leszek took the bigger one, I took the smaller one. And windy day, I remember it was a real windy day. We're out there riding around in the forest, in the fields, and it's an English saddle. We would call it an English saddle or a European saddle. I mean, I guess you'd call it a Polish saddle. The point is, it's not a Western saddle, like in America where you got that big saddle horn right in front of you, right between your legs, you know, right there. So if you're falling off, you can grab that saddle horn, you know. And with the European style saddle, you're up a little higher in the stirrups, so you're kind of bouncing on your knees, which is comfortable. But if you start to fall, you just got the loose reins and nothing to grab except the horse's ears or something, you know. There's nothing to hold on to. So I kind of prefer that Western saddle where you're sitting down on it. You get a sore bottom at the end of the day, but you feel a little more, I don't know, to me it's more comfortable. And one thing I've noticed riding horses, I haven't ridden that many horses and that many times in my life, but I have a few times. One thing I notice is if the horse is walking slowly, that's fine, just walking, okay, that's boring. And that's like, I remember with the scouts, we would go horseback riding. That's what they would go down a trail, and the string of 50 horses or 30 horses, all in a line, one following the other, just walking. So it's kind of boring, you know. You want to run. And so then you get into that, I don't know, like a trot or something. And that's when you're bouncing all over the place and you want to grab something. Like, so there's nothing to grab. And that's not comfortable. You're just bouncing all over. Then you go into a gallop and you're like, whoa, you're going so fast because a horse can run fast. That's why it's a horse. But it's such a smooth rhythm, you know, that motion. And then you just enjoy the ride, man, and you're going fast. That is cool. So, great day horseback riding with Leszek one day. All kinds of things we used to do. yeah, I remember another thing with Leszek. He wanted to learn English, and I wanted to learn Polish, and I had learned a little bit, and so enough where I could kind of start talking a little bit. And in his English was about on my level of Polish. You know, we were about the same level. We could kind of get by. And he would tell me, you know, hey, speak English because I want to learn. And I would say, Leszek, no, you speak Polish. I want to learn Polish. So we're both a little selfish, right? Or at least I was selfish. I probably should have just taught him English. But I'm going to spend my whole days teaching English. I want to learn Polish, right? And I'm here in Poland. So the students at the high school would see us talking sometimes with me speaking lousy Polish and him answering me and talking to me in lousy English. And it was a funny thing for them to see. But he ended up being probably my best student because he was so determined to learn. And yeah, and then he was a great friend. And when my two friends from America, Emir and Sean, came to visit, after I'd been here in Poland, I'd been over a year. This would have been November of '95. So I had been here a year and a year plus. In Poland, about almost a year and a half. So my two friends from California came out to visit me. They came to Europe, and communication in those days was all by letter. You know, theoretically I could make a phone call, but it's expensive, very expensive, and there was no email yet. I mean, it existed, but I didn't have it. And so we're communicating by letters, and it takes some days for a letter to go back and forth. And then if you miss one, which I did, apparently. So in the planning of them visiting, my two friends visiting, I missed a letter. And then I got a letter, panicked, like, Pat, hey, you haven't responded. What's going on? So I wrote right back. Maybe I even called and left a message on the machine or something with important details, just a few seconds of talking, maybe a minute. And then they ended up coming, but they didn't come straight to me. They came to, I think, Budapest or maybe Vienna, and then made their way up by train. And so they were supposed to come, they're supposed to arrive on a certain day, and I think it was a school night. They were supposed to come in the late evening, like middle of the night. And I had to teach the next morning. So I went out to the station, not far away. It's a small town, so nothing is a long walk, you know. So I go out to the station and I'm waiting on the platform, and their train didn't come on this particular night. I don't know if it was a Monday night or a Tuesday night. The point is they didn't arrive. You know, that train, the whole train never came. It's not like it came and they weren't on it. There was no train that was supposed to come. And I'm like, and I didn't have the wherewithal or the ability to ask the lady, if even there was any lady there. I think in the middle of the night there's nobody there selling tickets or anything, so there was no lady to ask. Maybe the next day I could go back and ask her, what happened to that train? And maybe I did even, I don't remember. The point is that their train never came. I'm standing there on the platform, and here comes a train. And I'm waiting, I'm thinking, oh good, finally it's here. It had been a good half hour I've been waiting. And here comes a train, and slowly, I see it all the way down the track, you know, the big bright light coming slowly, and it comes, and it's cold. It's a cold train. So that was that. So then I went home, and that was it. And the whole next day, they didn't come. And I didn't know what was happening, but I knew they were gonna come. So it came to be Friday. I don't know how many days passed in between there. It might have been 2 or 3. The point is, I know they're coming, and I know they're not here yet. And they were supposed to have been on that train according to the plan that I had sent them. Now it's Friday, and I have to go to Warsaw for some Peace Corps thing. I don't remember what it was. Sometimes we had to go in for a medical checkup or something, and that's what I had to do. So I had to go to Warsaw. Well, that's a whole day event. I mean, I would leave at midnight or something and come back the next day in the afternoon or the early evening. And so before I went to Warsaw, before I got on the train, I put a sign up, like on a piece of paper, just a sheet of paper, something like this, and it said on it, Emir and Sean, and then with an arrow or something pointing where to go, and then some directions like go get the keys from the lady in the station. And I talked to the lady in the station who sold the tickets, and I explained that my friends might come. Here's my key. They're Americans, and just give them this note. I wrote a note. Emir and Sean go to such and such a place, and I told Leszek, so Leszek could take care of them if I'm not back by the time they get here. And that's what happened. So first of all, the first thing is that little note that I put on the outside wall of the station building was immediately ripped off by kids, of course, because you can't leave anything alone. You gotta. They love this like devil, this like ghoulish, impish humor of making trouble, right? Any chance to cause somebody trouble? Oh, you left a note? Oh, we're gonna steal it. It's so fun. This is like Polish fun. So yeah, they steal the note, and so that was gone, and I kind of expected that. And but they did somehow end up talking to the lady at the station, because I think they got off the train and they just started yelling my name, and it worked. So the lady gave them the note and the key or keys. And they ended up meeting Leszek, and he took care of them the whole day, and that was a wonderful thing to do. And then finally, I got back that evening, I think, and then we had a whole week together and just had fun. I had them in my lessons, helping me teach. We went out and played football with the guys, and it was snowing. I remember we were playing football in the snow with my students, and I think they got a kick out of that. I mean, my students did. And so that was a great time seeing them. And then they left, and I remember them leaving, getting them on the train after they'd been there about a week, maybe a little less than a week, some days. And they got on the train to go to Warsaw, I think. And then from there, I don't remember where they were going to fly from. But man, I went back and I cried. I was like crying tears, like, wow, my friends came to see me. That was really cool. You get homesick, and in those days in the Peace Corps, it was different than now, because now you have cell phones, internet access, and you're in touch with the whole world all the time. But my only communication was letters and Newsweek magazine. We got that for free once a week, and that was my connection to the outside world. I kind of had some Polish television. Sometimes I had a television, but it was Polish. It was inadequate to me. I didn't have internet access in those days. Just letters, and I got letters every day. When you write a lot, you get a lot, and that was a different kind of lifestyle, a different kind of communication. But good, I enjoyed writing letters. I've written thousands of them, and I would get them every day. Good old Pani Basha. Pani Basha, shout out to Pani Basha, the secretary. And she was very helpful. I would go to see her every day to check out my letters. Any letters for me? Right. Okay, so that's Leszek. I went to Leszek's wedding. I think that was the first Polish wedding I went to. I've talked about that in a previous podcast where I tried tatar. The steak tatar was great. Krzysiek Kukwa was there. Yeah. So, yeah, and the Kukwas, Krzysiek, Mariola, of course, and their cousins from the other family. So, yeah, just great people. And Mrs. Kukwa, she was the one who worked in the kitchen at the preschool where I would go to eat obiad every day, and she was the one yelling at me to eat my beets because they got the vitaminki, right? She taught me how to eat beets, so now I like beets now. One time I used to go back for Christmas sometimes and spend Christmas with the Bednarczyks, and we would have so much fun. I remember dancing with them. I had brought a tape, days of cassette tapes. I had made a tape of Polish songs, like old Polish hits. And we put that on, and so they were old ones, so the parents remembered them. And it's nice when you hear these old songs, from your youth, and we were just dancing and having fun. Good old time there. But when I would go back for Christmas, I would walk around the town and just see people, that I used to know, or go visit people like Leszek, etc. And I went to the preschool just to see the ladies in the kitchen. And, and this is right before Christmas, but they're still working. It's like those last couple of days, or maybe the last day of school before the Christmas break. And I had just arrived, and I go into the kitchen with a nice bottle of vodka. And we were having vodka in the kitchen. I guess I should say that quietly, but it was a lot of fun. And then with Mr. Kukva, he was a butcher, and he took me out one time to a farm. It was Saturday morning. We go to this farm, which ended up, actually it was Leszek's wife's family, their family farm, just outside of Legnica, Dobiegniew, just outside of Dobiegniew. And nice people. And we go there early Saturday morning, a little chilly out, and Mr. Kukva had, he was a butcher, so he chooses a pig. They choose one of the pigs in the pig pen, and he puts a rope around the leg, around the foot of the pig, and like kind of guides him out to the yard, and got him tied up there, I guess, and takes a small axe, and with the hammerhead of the axe, just whacks that pig, I think 2 times, maybe 3 times, right between the eyes, and the pig is just dead. And so that was interesting to watch. And then he proceeded to, I think he cleaned it with hot water, like boiling water, to clean off the skin pretty well, and then cut it up, and I watched the whole process. And it was very interesting, I've killed chickens before, and a long time ago. One time I did that. So that's interesting, to chop a chicken's head off. I think it's something that people should do, actually. It's a good thing. Other people will be shocked, and I'm sure people in my immediate family are going to take offense at that, but that's okay. I like meat, and I like chicken, and I have no problem with seeing a pig butchered. Well, but the funny thing about the story is, or one of the little facts, it's funny, sad, is Mr. Kukva had a device for killing the pig. It was some kind of electric thing where you put a clip on the ear of the pig and another clip on the other ear, and then I don't know if you just flick a switch or if you grind it. I'm not sure which one, but it electrocutes the pig, and that's how he used to do that. But it was stolen from his garage. He had it in the garage, and somebody broke in and stole it, which is so typical. And it's come on. You're really going to steal that, and then you're going to sell it at the market and try to get vodka money or cigarette money. It's just sad and kind of pathetic. But I guess when people are poor, you watch your shoes, right? And hopefully we're getting away from that kind of style of stealing mentality. In any case, so now he had to kill the pig with the axe, and he did, and then he slaughtered it, and I watched the whole process, and I took pictures. I don't know if I was any help. I don't remember helping, actually. I was just watching, and I took photos. I actually have photos of that somewhere around here, and then the babcha came out with a bucket, and when he cut the neck of the pig and the blood came out, she had that bucket ready with a wire whisk, and she whisked up the blood as it came out and made it all frothy, and that was used for blood sausage. What do they call that? The kashanka, which I like. So they collect the blood and they use it, and then he's cutting up the head of the thing, and he threw the eyeballs to the dog. I remember there's a dog got the eyeballs to eat, and I think maybe the brain and some bones, like in the ears or something. I don't know. So the dog got a little treat. It's just funny to watch this pig being slaughtered. And then we go into the house for a break. I don't know if we were finished or just having a break. I think we were finished. and we ate the liver for breakfast, and it was delicious. It's just great, fresh. You can't get fresher liver than the one that you just killed, right? So that was an experience and a great moment, and I love that. That's just that was a cool thing. So all right, that was with the kook fuzz. Okay, and then so I had been in Dobiegniew for a year and this is going back a little bit to that was November that Emir and Sean had come, and then previous to that in the summertime, late June I think, because school was just ending. My mom and my sister Anne and my niece Jessica visited me, and they flew into Berlin and rented a car and drove that car to Dobiegniew, which was an easy way to do it and a good way. And then they visited me in Dobiegniew for a while until school was finished, and then we all four took a trip around Poland. We went down to Krakow and saw some other sites along the way, and then came back. And then on the way back, after we had gotten back to Dobiegniew, we went back to Berlin, and I went with them. How did we do that? Yeah, because Tomek also went with us. So somehow we fit all of us in the car, I guess. I guess we could fit 5. So we went to Berlin, and when you don't know the city and it's a big city and there are 2 airports at least, it's easy to get lost and confused. But we spent the night at a hotel there, and the hotel had a pool. And so we go down to the pool, and it's got a little jacuzzi on the side there. So we're kind of playing around in the jacuzzi, and we're swimming around in the pool. And these 2 men come down, these 2 Germans, in their robes, and they take off their robes, and they are buck naked. I mean buck. Fat German men. Hairy German men. And they jump in the pool, and I'm like, these naked German men are swimming in the pool. And I'm there with my mom and my sister and my niece, and my student. It was surreal. It was unbelievable. And when I told the story later to somebody said that it's these East Germans that have this kind of like, oh yeah, we'll do what we want and we'll show you, like that kind of, I don't know what you call that attitude. I don't know if that's, is that chip on your shoulder or is that something else? But it's like, we're going to be naked and what are you going to do about it, And the fact is nobody does anything about it except, try to hide your eyes and get away fast because you don't even want to look at it. I mean, there are a few things in life uglier than a man naked. Like a woman naked is one thing. It's always the wrong woman when they're doing those protests. Like, let me choose who takes their shirts off. Don't be doing that. So, all right, we're being silly here, but that's true. These 2 German men took their robes off and they were buck naked, swimming in the pool. Then what happened was, so we're there enjoying our time, or trying to, and all of a sudden my tooth started hurting. And it wasn't just a little hurting, like I had a cracked tooth. I didn't know it was cracked until I eventually got to a dentist, but it took a long time. And we were told in the Peace Corps that if you're going to see a dentist, you got to see our dentist. Like, we have a dentist you have to see. So it meant going into Warsaw to go to the dentist. And now that I look back on it, I think I might have been mistaken. I think if it's an emergency, we probably could have gone to just a local dentist. But I remember being told, don't do that. Go, we have a officially approved dentist to go to. Or same thing with a doctor, I guess. So anyway, I'm stuck in Berlin with an aching tooth, and I'm taking aspirin, but nothing helps. There's no help. There's no relief from the pain when you got that. There's no worse pain than toothache that I've ever had. I've had some painful situations, but the teeth when they hurt bad. There's nothing else you can think about. You can't think. You can't sleep. You just, oh God. So my tooth is just killing me. I got to go back by train all the way to Dobiegniew from Berlin the next day. So, I survived the night in the hotel. Somehow the ladies make their way to the airport, and they're off on their own back to America. And Tomek and I are taking the train back to Dobiegniew. And we do, and it takes hours, like the whole day or whatever, but we get there. I got to go to the secretary at the school and call Warsaw to arrange the dentist thing, and then take the whole day, next day, go to Warsaw on the train with this aching tooth. And it's just killing me. But that's what I do. So I go to the school secretary, Pani Basha, and there are these two blondes sitting next to me in the office, and it's a blonde mama and her blonde daughter. And it reminds me of a joke, which I'll tell quickly. It's not my joke, and you've probably heard it, but the point is this blonde girl says to her blonde mama, "Mama, I'm pregnant." And the mama says, "Are you sure it's yours?" Okay, silly joke. Anyway, these two blondes are sitting there, blonde mama, blonde daughter, and I'm not really paying attention. I'm thinking about my tooth, and I got to get to Warsaw. Well, the daughter of the two starts talking to me, and at this moment, I honestly don't remember if she was speaking English, because she, it turned out, could speak English, or if we were talking in Polish, because I had been here a year, and she ended up becoming a great friend of mine, and we always spoke Polish, and she was one with whom I could communicate in Polish without a problem. It was just like fluent. Because I think some people have the mindset, which I do actually, of dumbing it down or making it simple or communicating in a way that's understandable. And other people just talk, they just, blah, 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 and I want to talk, and that's it, and if you don't get it, I'm going, here we go. So that was the first time, I met Agnieszka, who would become a great friend of mine. And now, she eventually became a chemist, and she lived in England for a while, and so shout out to my good old friend Agnieszka and all the Bednarchuks. Yeah, we had great times there with them. Yeah. I remember just talking about them another minute here. They got these other friends. From what town are they? Now, I'm going to forget the towns, and I'm going to forget people's names, and I'm sorry about that. But Silvek was the man's name, and Sylvester. And they were friends. I don't remember if they're related now, like cousins or something. But in any event, these people, this great family, had a summer home in Dobiegniew, and they would spend the summers up there. And so we went to their place one time, and I remember this because I have photos of it. This is a great thing about photos, is that they help your memory. And we just had a little radio or magnetophone, they called it, the tape player. We put on a tape, or maybe it was a CD player by that time, and put on the music, and we just started dancing, and we're in bare feet, and we're just like dancing up a storm, having so much fun. It was great. Just a few of us in this with the cement floor, I remember, in this little home. Great times. So, and then those people helped me move. They moved me when I moved from Dobiegniew down to Bielsko-Biała, and I ended up spending, I don't know, a week or at least a few days at their house, and they were so nice to me to move me and help me out, and that whole time, those whole 3 years plus 4 years even, my Polish was never that good, and so my ability to communicate was very limited. But anyway, great people. Okay, that's that. Let me see what else I want to say here. Oh, another thing about the Bednarchuks. So the Papa, Mr. Bednarchuk, Pan Tadeusz, was a fisherman. I mean, he knew fish. I think he had studied fish or something. And he had been on a boat at some point in his life. And so he would teach me about fish and how to cut them up and how to cook them and how to eat them. And it was with him and with them that I ate eel for the first time in my life. And it's something that, coming from America, when you think about eating eel, or you see it sometimes on television, like, oh, we got eel. It's like kind of disgusting, like this long, snaky, fishy type. Ugh, who wants to eat eel? But it's smoked eel, and it's absolutely delicious. I think it's kind of fatty, and I have come to know now I know because I tried to buy it, it's expensive, man. It's not cheap fish, uh, but it's very tasty. So if anybody out there ever gets the chance, I recommend eel. I love it. All right. So yeah, and then we got. Okay, let me talk about these three guys: Tomek, Bartek, and Kamil. So with the Peace Corps, they told us that we could have Polish lessons, and they would pay. The Peace Corps would pay the Polish teacher. So we just got to like fill out a form and sign it, and then the person would get money. So my idea was I'm going to choose one of my students to teach me. It's going to be my best student. It has to be a boy. I didn't want a girl coming to my apartment. That would be questionable. I didn't want any of that. So I'm going to choose the best boy student. So I waited till I had the first test, and then the first the best score on the test would be the person I would ask to come teach me Polish. I'm not. I have no requirements, no high expectations of how the lesson might go. I'm like, I just need some words, some talking. We can sing a song. I don't know, just any kind of Polish lesson, just to get me some knowledge and some ability. So we had that test, and these were second year high school students. So in those days, I think there were only 3 years of high school, or maybe there were 4. I honestly don't remember. But I think these were second years. So the high score went to Bartek. So I asked Bartek to come and teach me, and he agreed. And so we arranged a time. When he came over after school one day, he brought Tomek with him. And I don't remember if Kamil was with them two at that time. I don't think it was 3 of them the first time. I think it was just them two because they were best friends. And so, okay. And it ended up somehow Tomek actually might have been a little bit better student, and he ended up becoming my real teacher. I don't remember why now, but Bartek was the one I asked first, and eventually it became Tomek, who was my teacher. But they would sometimes come together, and whenever I had a party, those guys would come over. And Kamil was their other friend, and so he would join them, and the 4 of us became really good friends. I think, which is a little bit weird because they're my students, but they were good guys, and we would just do things together. Go riding bikes or playing basketball, and having parties. And just, it's such a small community, and everything's so local, and everybody knows everybody. So to me, it was very comfortable. But for those people, they were like, I don't know, a little too close knit. Maybe they didn't always seem to love it. So, those were good guys, and I can say this that Tomek originally wanted to become a dentist, but he was such a good English student. He was a good student all around, and a smart guy. Um, and he ended up growing tall as a tree too, a tall guy, but a really good friend of mine. And he ended up studying English, and in the end, he ended up taking, when is the end? But eventually, he took my job. When I had moved on, there was another Peace Corps person there, a girl, came in and taught probably 2 years. And then she moved on, probably went back to the States, and Tomek then filled in and started teaching. So he actually, he was my student, and then he took that job and taught. English in that school. So that was great. And then he moved on. He got married, went to, I don't want to say Hoinuv, I want to say Hoshno, I think. I get those two confused sometimes. So hello, Tomek. I hope he's listening to this. Okay, I got some notes here. I'm trying to look in the camera too. I don't do it enough. That's why I wanted to turn off the screen, but it doesn't work. I don't like the black screen, so I got my face down here, and I keep looking at myself. I'm eventually working on improvements here with the whole production. I got my production crew working on all kinds of improvements. Okay, so we got the broken tooth, we got the eel, Tomek, Bartek, Kamil, Polish lessons, Pani Basia, the secretary, great. Hello to her. Yeah, I always go see them when I go back to Dobiegniew. It's been years. The last time we were there was for Agnieszka's wedding. And my wife and I went. We went to all three of those Bednarchuk weddings, and we had so much fun. Just, I love weddings. And then Beata at the Karchma, and let me talk a little bit about that because Beata is a special person. I haven't had communication with her in a long time, but the Karchma was a little restaurant, Karchma Leshna, just off the highway there, like a 5 minute. They say Zhut Beretem, right? Zhut Beretem, a hat's throw, right? A toss of the beret. Away. A toss of the beret away. So I would hang out at the Karchma a lot. I love that place. It was just a little wooden shack of a place with some wooden tables inside, almost like picnic tables. A little balcony outside, like a patio. If it was nice weather, you could sit out there. But not a big place. And you could get food. I love the cutlet, the chicken cutlet. Cutlet kurczaka. However you call it. It's delicious, or bigos, or whatever was going, flocky. And beer, of course. I always got beer. I love beer. And so I would go in there and get a beer and write letters or study Polish in the evening after work, if there's nothing else to do. I would go there and hang out, have a beer, write a letter, or study Polish, or grade papers, or tests if we had a test, something like that. And just hang out alone, or if Leszek was with me, we would go there, or there were a couple other bars. I remember, let me talk about another bar first. There was a bar, I think it had a number, like bar 13 or bar 17, something like that, I don't know. Maybe that was the number of the building on the street, like the address. In any case, I would go there sometimes, and it was one of those places where you open the door and everybody turns to see who's coming in. So you get all these faces looking at you as you enter. So it's it takes a little nerve just to walk into the place. And a thing about a bar in Poland is that the Polish people want to sit down. There's no standing like an American bar where all the tables are taken. Okay, no seats at the bar. Okay, we'll just stand over here in the corner and talk while we're having our drinks. No, there's no standing. They don't want to stand it. So, and I noticed this while I'm sitting, and they had these, I think they were the white plastic tables, kind of cheapo. People would come in, they would open the door, look in, oh, no place, and they would leave. And I noticed this, and I was thinking, well, if you could fit another table in here, or even two more, you could arrange it so there were more places, and then you would have more customers, because you're losing customers. And I remember I tried to explain this to the owner, one time, and he just didn't care. Maybe he wasn't the owner. He seemed to be, because he was like an older guy. Or maybe he didn't understand my Polish, because I was trying to say it in Polish and it didn't work probably. But, yeah. It was at that bar, too, that this young guy, and it was a guy Leszek knew, but Leszek knows everybody in Dobiegniew. He knows everybody. So he's friends with everybody. So this guy, probably also about his age, was the bartender there. And I don't remember his name. It could have been any name, but he's the guy who, when I entered the bar with Leszek, probably the first time, and I met this guy across the bar, I reached my hand over to shake his hand, which is standard, and he took off my glove and said, no, 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 you don't shake hands with a glove on. And that's when I learned that lesson. You know, an American wouldn't know that. You got to take off your glove if you're going to shake hands. And I learned that lesson in that bar on that night. And I never make that mistake anymore, but it's something that if you don't learn it, you don't know. They got the great, let me get it right in Polish. I won't remember it. Czego jaś się nie nauczył, ja nie będzie umiał. Coś tam takiego, and I can't remember. What little Johnny didn't learn, Big John won't know, right? So I never learned that. You got to take off your glove when you shake hands. So, because in America we don't care about that stuff, but in Poland it's important. And now I know, and I learned it from that guy, and that guy ended up dying in a car wreck. Young guy, and I think he might have had a kid or two, and I don't know, I don't remember the guy's name, but sorry, rest in peace, guy. There are a lot of car wrecks and a lot of dead people out there because of them. So, I mean, in my family, we have had 3 serious car crashes that affected the whole history of the family. Where people died. 3 car wrecks in which people died, and they affected the whole history of the family. So, 3 in one family. So, it's kind of a scary thing. Okay, I don't want to talk about car wrecks, though. That's enough about that. Let's go to the next thing. Where am I? The Karczma. Back to the Karczma. So, loved that place, and I would spend a lot of time there. And I remember one time, so I'm at the table, writing or drinking, and there's a guy, I don't want to say a drunk guy, because what am I doing? I mean, I'm also a drunk guy. But there's a guy sitting at another table, like kind of across on the other side of the room. It's just one room, And there's an open garbage can, and I've got, I don't know, a bag of, some paper bag or something, some garbage. I don't remember what it was. And I toss it into the garbage can. But the garbage can's across the room. It's not very, it's like, 2-3 meters. And it goes right in, so no problem. But the guy got I could feel it. He's like, it's that jealous anger, just the opposite of the naked Germans. Like the naked Germans are like, yeah, what are you going to do about it? And the Polish is like, oh, I'm going to do something about it. So that guy took something, I don't know what, and he threw it at my head as hard as he could. And he missed, of course. And I just I laughed, that was the end of it. I didn't know what to say. Polak nie potrafił or something. I don't know. Like, what do you say to that? So, there was another time, though, I'm sitting in there, having my beer, and I could always count on Beata to bail me out if, she was so nice. So, if I got into trouble. But I'm sitting in there another night, and I got a beer in front of me, and I'm studying Polish or whatever, minding my own business, and a drunk guy, like I'm not, comes and sits across from me, and he's trying to make small talk. He's chatting me up, basically. He's chatting me up, and I'm like, okay, whatever. It's a Polish lesson for me, whatever. I don't love to be bothered by these guys, but he's being nice. He's a nice drunk, right? The thing about a drunk is he's got no inhibition, and so what he wants, he'll just kind of take without any shyness or no inhibition. So he just reaches over for my beer. His arm extends towards my beer. So I just take my beer and I pull it towards me, and I grab it. I'm like, you can't have my beer. My beer is my beer. You get your beer. And it was one of those things where I was embarrassed for him. but he wasn't embarrassed for himself, you know? Funny situations. Okay, another time I think that's it with the Karchma. Just a great place. I just like you feel at home there. That's my home place. And unfortunately, they had to close it. I guess they didn't get enough business or something, and there was I don't know. It just didn't work, and they went on to do other things. And I don't think it exists anymore, or at least it's been changed. Or yeah, Beata and her husband. I want to say Krzysztof, but I don't know if that's the right name. I don't remember. Great people, and my heart goes out to them. So, hello, Dobiegniew. Okay, next thing, I was walking home one night, and I don't know where I had been. Maybe I had just been visiting the Bednarchuks, as I often did. I would be there watching TV, watching the news, having a beer with Pan Tadeusz, or just just hanging out. And so here I am walking home, nighttime. I look up at the stars in the sky, and one star has a little tail. There's a little tail on it, like the light, the pointy, just a dot, but a little bitty thing hanging off, like almost like a cursor or something on the screen. And I'm thinking, are my eyes okay? Like maybe I need new contacts, or I'm looking up like, what is that? What am I looking at? And I'm thinking, all right, I don't know. Maybe I need new glasses or something, or maybe I had too many beers. I don't know. I go home and I go to sleep and nothing happens. The next day, no, not the next day, the next Monday, because we would always get the news weeks on Monday, if I remember right. And so the Newsweek comes, and in that very issue of Newsweek, it has a story, or at least an announcement, about the discovery of the Hale-Bopp comet. They had just discovered it, and I'm like, that's my comet. I discovered it. I saw it before I'd ever heard about it. These guys, I guess, just discovered it, and that was it. So just walking home, I found a comet in the sky. I guess I wasn't maybe the first one in the whole world of things, but it kind of reminds me when I was, because you wonder about the whole world, like who is the fastest guy in the world, and I remember being a kid thinking, maybe I'm the fastest guy. How do you know? You can't measure everybody. Maybe I'm the fastest guy on the planet. All right. Okay, let's go to. Okay, so that's it with the Karchma. It's a great place. And then there's the. They had a wild boar's head on the wall. That was cool because a lot of these guys are hunters. Like I said, Anjay was a hunter, and I went hunting with these guys sometimes. And so there's a boar head on the wall in the Karchma. And in a lot of houses and places, you would see these like deer heads, or at least the antlers. And almost every house, even if it's a small apartment, would have antlers for the hat rack, or the coat rack as you come in the door. So, okay, let's get to where I am here, and that is frozen lakes. Yeah, I remember the first winter in Poland. I'm like ready for winter. I'm thinking it's going to be Siberia, Poland, the land of the cold. And it never got cold. It snowed a little bit, got kind of cold, but not like Chicago. I remember real winters in Chicago, which were much worse. But then that second winter, that's when we got hit, and it was a real winter. We had snow for 6 months, from Halloween all the way through April, and that was a cold one, like minus. I don't even know in Fahrenheit anymore because I'm so used to Celsius now, but in Celsius it was like minus 10 and it would go down to minus 20. Really cold, and my apartment was not well heated because they would just turn off the heat on the weekends and stuff. And I can't tell you how happy a feeling it is when you're coming home on the train. And as the train arrives into the town and you can see your building, which was in the school. My apartment was in the school building. Um, and I would see black smoke, coal smoke coming out the chimney, the tall smokestack. And what a great feeling. I'm like, I'm going to have hot water. This is going to be great, because there were nights when I would have to go to sleep in my sleeping bag with my winter coat on, with the hood all the way over, and it was one of those mummy bags, zipped up to here. I was trying to survive the night in that cold apartment, and it got pretty frigid. But now I'm used to it, and I even like the cold, just like I like the heat in the summer. And I can say it's not very hot this summer. All right, so in Dobiegniew, they got the Dobiegniew Cup, and I don't know if they still do that, but I hope they do. I haven't heard anything about it. It's a soccer tournament for young kids, and they would come from all over Poland, and I think maybe it was international. They might have gotten some teams from Germany, because Germany's right next door. So I don't know if that's true or not, but it was a nice tournament early in the summer, like just at the end of the school year or beginning of July, I think it usually was. And so the town would fill up with all these teams of young kids, like, I don't know, 10 years old or maybe up to maybe teenagers, 15 or so. I don't remember the ages. But it was a nice event, and they'd be there for a few days. And in Dobiegniew, there are like, I don't know how many, 20 soccer fields. So they would all be occupied for the tournament and then eventually have the championship. And so if that still exists, and if anybody out there listening is a soccer coach in or near Poland, I would recommend it for your kids. So a little promotion there of the Dobiegniew Cup circus. Yeah, one time, so because it's a small town, I was there alone. I had nothing to do except write letters, study Polish, drink beer. And what else to do? I would go jogging a little bit or play basketball and hang out with Leszek, visit people. So I tried to do everything there was to do. And one day the circus came to town. And I'm like, okay, well, all right, if that's what's happening, I'll do it. So I think I'll go to the circus. I had never been to a circus before, not even the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus. And that used to come to New Orleans like once a year, but I never went to it. So and the Cirque du Soleil, right? I tried to get tickets to that in California when I was living there because it was recommended to me, and I suspect it's a wonderful thing. Uh, but when I tried to buy tickets, you had to have a credit card, or there was some glitch where I couldn't get them, like, which kind of vexed me. Like, anyway, so I had never been to a circus, and now there's a circus coming to Dobiegniew. Now, going back previously to the Peace Corps training, I remember we, as trainees, had been told by the trainers to boycott the circuses. Like, some people are requesting that we boycott circuses because they're cruel to the animals. And at that time, when they told us that in the training, I honestly thought some people have too much time on their hands and nothing to worry about. Like, and you got to create a problem. Like, circuses are a problem. Just do something else with your life. Now you're gonna bug us about boycotting circuses because they're cruel to animals. Shut up. And I really was. I'm like, I don't care about that. Just shut up. So here comes the circus, right? So I get a ticket and I go. And I felt a little silly when I got there because it's all these little kids, little kids. And some of them were with their moms or with maybe the teacher brought them on a Vichechka or something. So some adults mixed in with all these little bitty kids. So I go in and I sit in the back, kind of up in the back thing. And so the circus starts, and they bring out, sure enough, these animals, like a bird, and the bird flies a little bit, and maybe talks something or something. And the kids are in the front row, and they're like, whoa, and they can get close to it, and they're like fascinated by this bird that can maybe walk and do tricks, etc. And then they brought out another little animal, maybe a rabbit or something. I don't remember everything. But then they brought out a bear, and it was a small bear, and it had a muzzle on its face and a rope attached to the muzzle, like about a meter long rope. And the man would pull that rope. Well, when your muzzle is pulled forward, you cannot help but fall forward, and then the bear would go head first and go into a somersault. So this bear was doing somersaults, and the kids are like, "Whoa, this is great!" And they're just excited to see a live bear. That is pretty exciting to them. And I'm looking at it going, "This is a pretty cheap trick. Like, this is pretty easy. Like, what?" And bears are smart, and they can do. And I'm like, this is what they were talking about back in training. Like, and I can see it now. This is crap. It's crap entertainment. The bear has no life. It's doing stupid tricks and hoping to get food, and it has no life. And I was pretty disgusted, honestly. I was honestly disgusted because I love bears. I mean, I'm a Bears fan, and that was not a nice thing to see. I have to admit. Okay, I'm gonna keep going here because I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna get it done until it is done. One more little story about Dobiegniew. So I'm there in my apartment in the school building, and I had bought a knife, because you got to have a knife, not just these relics, like butter knife, but a sharp knife. I needed something to cut with, a cutting knife. And I went to the shop in Dobiegniew. There was a shop where you could get things like that, and so I got a knife, and I brought it home, and I used it, and it was good, and I had it for a while, and it was dull. It got dull eventually. Not dull. You could still cut, but you know the difference between like a sharp knife and a sharp knife. Like there's sharp and then there's sharp. And so I wanted this knife to be sharp. And another thing I meant to say earlier about Dobiegniew is it's full of meat shops. So you go on the corner, there's a meat shop, and then you walk 10 steps, and there's another meat shop, and then across the street there's a meat shop, and then you meet somebody, and you say, you meet his cousin, you say, "Oh, what do you do?" "I own a meat shop." And it's like the place is full of meat shops. I'm like, wow, it must be good business. So I'm thinking, I got a dull knife. Where could I get it sharpened? Meat shop. Right? They gotta sharpen their knives, right? They're always cutting meat. So I go to one of the meat shops and I talk to the lady, and I honestly don't know. Sometimes I think they don't understand my Polish, or I didn't explain myself right, because I'm trying to say, "Can I sharpen this knife here? Can you guys sharpen this knife? Can I get this knife sharpened here? Do you have a knife sharpener? How do you sharpen your knives?" And so first of all, they didn't have a knife sharpener. I don't know. It's a mystery to me that was either not fully explained or not explained in a way that I could understand. But the lady took my knife. She took it, and I understood what she was saying. She said she's going to take it home to her husband. Her husband's going to sharpen it, and she's going to bring it back to me. And that's what happened. So it's like when you have a problem, the people will help you. You just got to tell them what your problem is, and you get it fixed. And so I got my knife sharpened, but I still don't understand how a meat shop cannot have a knife sharpener. Now, another thing I learned though is the place where people would sharpen their knives is on the windowsill, because they would have a rock windowsill, and they would sharpen it, or on the floor, like on some rock floor or something, like just sharpen the knife there. That's pretty simple. And I feel pretty stupid not knowing that. Like, I could have done that myself if I knew how, or if I'd thought of it. So a lot of these things are simple, but we're so sophisticated that we forget the simplicities. All right, so I got my knife sharpened. And it was so funny. It's just, to me, today, I still think that is a funny situation. Okie dokie. Okay, I just want to say one thing, and this is my good son Tomasz reminded me. He's the one that invented that joke at the beginning, by the way. And I tightened it up a little bit, but that's his joke. So if you like this podcast, Tomasz reminded me to tell you guys this because I never do it at the end. I know everybody else does it. That's why it's a little cliche, and I get sick of it on the other podcasts that I watch, and I'm sure you are too. But I was told to say it, and this is my crew. My crew recommended that I say this at the end because here we are. I think we're at the end now. If you like this podcast, please hit the like button and subscribe and tell your friends the joke. So funny, right? Good. Thank you. Goodbye.